Paul Thomas Anderson with another movie, one battle after another, as many of you know, comes out today. We're recording this Friday, September 26th. I am joined by my good friend Logan Dykehouse, and we are going to we're going to try to tackle the task of going through all of Paul Thomas Anderson's movies and telling you our thoughts and kind of what drew us into PTA. And Logan, you can start us off. What was your relationship with Paul Thomas Anderson? Like, what was kind of the first film that you watched and how it kind of drew you into the world of PTA?
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to this, and I'm looking forward to watching one battle after another. The first Paul Thomas Anderson movie I watched was actually Licorice Pizza. It was sort of like that it came out in 2021, and that was sort of right when I got into movies. And I remember seeing whether it was a trailer or a commercial for it, and it looked interesting, and it had a David Bowie song in it. So immediately I'm like, oh, this is cool. And I saw it, and that was like 4 years ago, so I didn't really know how to like examine it or really dissect any of it. But I remember liking it, and then as I sort of got into movies more, and like getting into sort of like The Ringer and listening to the rewatchables, I got into Boogie Nights. I watched it twice. It was two nights in a row after I first saw it. And then since then, I was like, I have to go through all of this guy's movies. And it's been really great. He's one of my favorite directors. He's definitely a top three. I don't know if he's one, two, or three, but he's definitely in that top three range for me.
Yeah, I think I'm in a very similar way. I saw in my letterbox just now, like Boogie Nights. I watched it when the rewatchables came out. That was actually my first Paul Thomas Anderson movie. I watched it September 28th and September 29th. I watched it back to back. And that was the first one that I really kind of figured out who Paul Thomas Anderson was. I had sort of seen something for Licorice Pizza. Like I think it was coming out and I saw like an advertise or a trailer for it. And I was kind of just like, oh, it looks cool, but I didn't really know anything. And it's kind of a huge deal now when Paul Thomas Anderson drops a movie. It's kind of like a huge event. Everybody's talking about one battle after another. And Boogie Nights, like we can get into it. Hard Eight, you've seen. I haven't seen yet, unfortunately. That's the only Paul Thomas Anderson movie I have not seen. But I mean, if you had any thoughts on Hard Eight, I guess we can just get in straight into it. We can go movie by movie in chronological order. Starting in 1996, Hard Eight was released. It pretty much started a trend of Paul Thomas Anderson having these character actors consistently in his movies. We have Philip Baker Hall in this one, John C. Riley, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Melora Walters, who will be with him through multiple movies. I'll have that number as we get through all of them, but Hard Eight, your thoughts on that movie?
Yeah, first time I saw it was probably about 3 years ago. I think it was just in my phase of wanting to see all of his movies. And I was like, yeah, it was fun. Don't remember much of it. But I did watch it last night just so I could be prepped. And it was actually really fun. Like at first, you're sort of confused with why the main character, who is Philip Baker Hall, you're kind of confused on why he's doing what he's doing. And then eventually you find out, and it's actually a really like big turn in the film, and it sort of coincides with Samuel Jackson's character. They kind of have something to deal with, but overall, it is really fascinating. It's one of those like this guy knows like a trick about something, and he's helping out another person do it. And it's a really just like fascinating watch of like it's based in Vegas, and Philip Baker Hall's character sort of has like a method of cheating Vegas and making money out of it. And he's showing John C. Riley's character how to do it, and it's really fun to watch. And then Gwyneth Paltrow comes in, and she sort of has a character arc for the plot and everything. And it's a quick movie too. It's only an hour and 40 minutes long around that, and I really enjoyed it, and I kind of flew through it. It felt like it went by really fast, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I think it's crazy. Something that we have to bring up. PTA was born in 1970, and this movie comes out in 1996, and Boogie Night comes out a year later in 97. And I believe that Hard Eight was based off a short film in 1993, where it's kind of where the beginning of the Hard Eight does start. And that one was
Mhm.
kind of like he wasn't a college student, like I believe he dropped out, but that was kind of like what would be his student film. And that leads into Hard Eight, and then making Boogie Nights at like 26, 25 or 26, whatever age he was when they were developing that. It's crazy, and it really just shows how much he was like pretty much a kid genius at that age, because I couldn't even imagine making something that memorable and something that people are still thinking about every day, like for the past 30 years, just how crazy it is. We can get straight into Boogie Nights if you want, if you had any last things on Hard Eight, but Boogie Nights, we both saw it, like watched it back to back. That just kind of shows how much of a whirlwind it is. It's really just so fun. Like I seeing films that are similar to it, like kind of reminds me of like Wolf of Wall Street, Babylon, just movies that are like absolutely absurd, and they have really big crescendos, and then they have falls, like we kind of saw with the like the decade when the decade changes, and William H. Macy just decides it's time for him to go, and there's just so many crazy performances. I think for Mark Wahlberg, looking at his filmography, I think this could be my favorite performance of his, even though it's so early on in his career. I mean, he does have some action films that I do like, but do you think this is Wahlberg? Where does this kind of rank on his filmography?
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite of his, especially for like at he was in that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, like the Basketball Diaries movie, and I think that was really like his only big thing film wise, because of course he was in Marky Mark, that band. But yeah, I'm with you there. I think it's my favorite Mark Wahlberg performance for sure.
And this movie, it's so funny watching it and rewatching it. I think this is my most watched of his movies. I believe I've seen it like 5 times, if not more, just watching clips on YouTube and stuff. But watching the stuff in the back, like especially what Philip Seymour Hoffman's doing in the back, because at my very first watch, I really didn't realize kind of like his intentions and his desire for the Wahlberg character, but you can clearly see, and I think it's just so silly, his wardrobe and the like film or the clothing and the costume design and the set design of all of PTA's movies are just unreal. It's another layer that makes all these movies so rewatchable. Some of the
Mhm.
characters in this, I really like Don Cheadle. I just love every little character. The Alfred Molina scene is like it might be my favorite PTA scene of all time. Like just the constant firecrackers going off in the background. It's just there's so much to love in it. It's hard to choose a scene that like it's hard to choose what scene is your favorite because there's just so many, and it's I mean it very well could be. We'll get to the rankings later, but it very well could be number one, and I don't know. It's very tough to pick a favorite though, as we'll get to with the rankings, because with PTA his worst movie is a lot better than somebody's like average movie or even their best movie.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting. Like with you talking there was like so many different tangents. I feel like we can go down with Paul Thomas Anderson. It's crazy. But I did want to say for that Alfred Molina scene in Boogie Nights, there's 3 songs in that scene that I downloaded just from it. And then that leads into just Paul Thomas Anderson and his scores as they are. Like Licorice Pizza, I watched the other day. So many good songs that I added. Inherent Vice, which I love. I can't wait to talk about another movie that I have so many songs added. And Boogie Nights is probably the most. I probably have added 12 songs from that soundtrack. I just love it. And I did want to say one thing about Philip Seymour Hoffman. I forgot to say it for Hard Eight. He's only in it for like 3 minutes, but he just comes in throwing 100 miles per hour, and it's so funny what he does. And he puts so much into it. It's kind of like what you were saying with his role in Boogie Nights. He just does so much, whether it's in the background or in the beginning, like when he first introduces himself, and you can like really see that he's just in love with Dirk as soon as he sees him. It's so great. And that's another tangent too, like the background of all Paul Thomas Anderson movies. They're so meticulous and they all have something to watch for. Like that's another way like his movies are so rewatchable is like you just notice more and more things as you go. And it's really all in the background. And you're like, it's really impressive how how he's able to just get everything down to a T. Like what you're saying with the costume design. Like everything is perfect. He's so good at telling the stories that he wants to do, and he gets all of the little details right with it. And it's just what makes him so great, and why we're here talking about him, about to see this new movie.
I think him and Tarantino and some other directors, they're just the world building in these movies. Like if you just bring up the world of Boogie Nights, people immediately know like what the characters look like, how they sound like. And we can just have the discussion now about Philip Seymour Hoffman, one of the greatest actors, if not the greatest actor of the 21st century and character actor. I feel like with just his character in Boogie Nights, Magnolia, him kind of aiding what could be, we'll get to that shortly. Tom Cruise, it could be like his most like I don't know, we'll get to that, but I mean Philip Seymour Hoffman, an absolute legend, gone too soon, and like he could have. I would love to see what he was doing now. I look going through back all of these movies since I was introduced to PTA. I think his acting as a side actor, but also as the main character in a film is just his ability to balance that. It's really hard for or actors, I feel like, to go from being the star to being on the side, and I think he does that super well. We can just get into Magnolia if you want.
Yeah, let's do
So,
it.
Magnolia 1999, absolutely stacked movie year. Tom Cruise agrees to this project. And it starts out, his introduction is one of the best of all time in a movie. And it takes a turn in that movie where we find out he's struggling with the illness of his father, and things just go really wrong for that character in a lot of ways, but he shows like some emotion that he was actually struggling with in real life with his own father. And I think with him being in that and Eyes Wide Shut in the same year is absolutely crazy to me. I know that Eyes Wide Shut had a um, long production, and I mean, you just have a bunch of characters in this. Julianne Moore back again with PTA. She has a crazy performance in that movie. Melora Walters, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Magnolia. I don't think it's quite. I mean, probably some people think that it should be cut down a little because it does seem a little like there could be fluff taken out. John C. Riley's character, people don't really love that part of the movie, but I just love the flow of it. Seeing a horror movie this year, Weapons, kind of based sort of off the style of Magnolia, I think it's really influential, and I think it just is getting more credit now, which it deserves than it did at the time. People kind of thought it was a flop, but your thoughts on Magnolia?
Yeah, it was another one of those I saw way long ago. It's actually probably the Paul Thomas Anderson movie I'm like least like knowledgeable about. Like I just it's been so long, and I remember it being 3 hours, all of these storylines in one. But then the ending, I remember the ending really like I was so confused because it's like Paul Thomas Anderson in my mind back then. Like nowadays, I get it, but back then, I'm like, this is a big director, and the frog scene. It's like, what does that mean? Why would he do that just to like do that at the end of this long 3 hour movie? Like in my mind back then, I was like, that's kind of just a weird, like cheap route to go for the end. But then as time goes on, I'm like researching more about it, like reading articles, listening to people talk about it. It is really interesting. It's like life can go many ways with everything, and there's all these people who are intertwined in this story, and then in the end, like anything can happen, and it's really like making the most of what you have. That's kind of the way I looked at it. Like I think the John C. Riley character is actually one of my favorites in that. It's because he's just like positive all throughout. The Melora Walters character is kind of putting him off a little bit in the beginning. He kind of stays persistent. He knows that she has her troubles, but he's also a cop. He's a person of authority. So he kind of struggles, and he was also a man of faith too. And I don't know, I might not remember it completely right, but I thought that was kind of another element to his character that he was dealing with. But either way, I thought you said it best with the Tom Cruise part too, how he was dealing with his own relationship with his father in the movie. And then that scene where he comes there, and then yet again, another Philip Seymour Hoffman in the background. That was one of the best scenes ever, and probably one of my favorite scenes in all of Paul Thomas Anderson's filmography. And I've only seen this movie once, and I really want to watch it again. I just, you got to make the time for these 3 hour movies.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that's the struggle I have with Babylon because Babylon's one of my favorite movies and just taking time to watch those 3 hour movies. But as you mentioned with the Philip Seymour Hoffman in the background performance, that actually being his reaction because it took him like so deeply that to see Tom Cruise just kind of have that emotion. We don't really see it now much days with him just being mostly an action star. I really hope since allegedly Mission Impossible is done, I'm hoping we get at least one more Tom Cruise performance where he kind of steps out of the box of that action role. Another performance in this next movie, Punch Drunk Love, that isn't really typical of this actor, Adam Sandler. Obviously, he has his Billy Madison's and the comedies that he's had for the last 20, 30 years. This is the one kind of like Uncut Gems where he plays a little bit different than he normally does. His character is very silly. It's a staple, I would say, of Paul Thomas Anderson. Barry Egan is Adam Sandler's character, and he has an anger issue, and it's kind of a love story, but it's a bit sloppy and um, I don't know. Another great Philip Seymour Hoffman performance. We're gonna say it continuously on this podcast,
Hmm.
but where does this rank in your Adam Sandler filmography?
Oh, it's definitely. I think it's the best. I just love seeing what he does. Like you said, compared to his Billy Madison, um, it's really nice, and he's really angry with it too. Like it kind of feels like him and Paul Thomas Anderson both were like this character, like just getting everything, like all their emotions into it, and it just comes out on the screen. Like I think this movie has one of the best rage scenes ever. It's when he's on the date, and he like excuses himself to go to the bathroom. He opens the door and he just punches the like stall door. He takes off a light. It's awesome. And I don't know if it was just from the YouTube clip I watched or if it actually is this way in the film, but the microphone, it like the audio is like too much. And I kind of remember it being that way in the film. I might be wrong though, but if it is that way, that makes it even better for me. Just like from a rage point of view, it's one of my favorite rage scenes I've ever seen before.
One of the things with Paul Thomas Anderson that I really respect is he's not one of those directors that just is cranking out movies like every 2 years. He really takes his time with his movies, and we've seen long stretches in his career where he's taken 4 or 5 years off. And I think this was one of those times between Punch Drunk Love and There Will Be Blood that he really needed that time to figure out what he was going to do and let the story really come to him and be creative because. I think that gap between Punch Drunk Love, There Will Be Blood, The Master is 10 years and three films in those 10 years. I think There Will Be Blood and The Master could be like his highest peak that he got to. Obviously, the other movies after Inherent Vice, Phantom Thread, Licorice Pizza, and One Battle After Another, we'll have to see if he can reach even greater heights than There Will Be Blood. Because I really think There Will Be Blood, if you didn't have any more thoughts on Punch Drunk Love, I think it's Daniel Day-Lewis's like absolute peak. I think it's up there with LeBron in 2012, MJ 96. He takes the screen away. This was the one that I wasn't super interested to watch at first just because I didn't really know if I'd care about the story just because I knew it was like an oil man. It was back in time. Paul Thomas Anderson does like to go back in time with like Boogie Nights and films like that and The Master and things of that nature. But There Will Be Blood. It's captivating from the moment you started. I believe there's no dialogue for the first 10 or 12 minutes or something like that, but it's a nonstop race. Paul Dano his character is absolutely absurd about Eli Sunday and then also another character as well in the movie. But I think the dynamic between them and just Daniel Day-Lewis, the way he delivers like the milkshakes, like the way he just delivers stuff in that movie is just on a nonstop, like it's a start to finish, it's a nonstop race. And knowing that it was filmed at the same time and close to No Country for Old Men is insane because those are two of the best movies of 2007. And this PTA's peak.
I think it's his peak, and it's crazy. Like I saw this 3 days ago. It's super fresh on my mind. and it was the last PTA film I'd yet to see, which is seems kind of crazy because it's like, probably his most popular, probably his best, if you take a consensus on that. And yeah, I think this is his peak, and it's really him, but it's a lot of it, like you said, is Daniel Day-Lewis. Like I think there's only two scenes that he's not in. Like he's just glued on the camera anytime like he's on, which is all the time you're watching it. And that's what makes the movie so watchable, is like you can't take your eyes off Daniel Day-Lewis. And you said the drink your milkshake. I haven't got that scene, is still stuck in my head. I watched it this morning. The way he says it is so good. I could do a impression of it right now. It's like, I drank your milkshake. It's like it's the way he says milkshake is so I say milkshake and he's like milkshake. It's so good. It's so good. And the Paul Dano part of it too is really fascinating because he was just supposed to be, I believe the older brother's name is also Paul Sunday, the guy who tells him about the land that little Boston that needs to go get. So Eli was supposed to be played by someone else, and he got fired. That the original actor for Eli got fired, I think like a week into shooting, and then so Paul Dano had to take over Eli, which was obviously the bigger role. So that was really fascinating. And I went into this, I didn't want to know anything. That's kind of how I do these movies. Like I'll read a synopsis. You can't, sometimes you can't escape a commercial or a trailer. But when I went into it, I knew it was supposed to be really good. And I don't like that because then my expectations are high, because if you have high expectations, it could still be a really good movie, but it falls below. This just exceeded. Like I knew it was a banger, and it was an absolute banger. And I know like Sean Fennessy from The Ringer, he like says it's the movie of the 21st century. I mean, I'm only 22. I don't know much about, the world yet, but I can get on board with that statement for sure. And it is kind of funny how it was filmed right next to No Country for Old Men, and like the scene and There Will Be Blood when like the derrick oil, or the oil derrick, however you say it, explodes and it has all of like the fog, like the black smoke in the air. It actually went over to where No Country for Old Men was filming, and they had to like pause filming for however long. It was probably like an hour or something. But it's so fascinating how they were right next to each other, and it ended up being probably the best movies, definitely of that decade, and probably the 21st century so far.
And as you mentioned, that No Country for Old Men has one of the best villain performances from Javier Bardem, and There Will Be Blood has one of the best villain performances from Daniel Day-Lewis. But I mean, part of me knows that I shouldn't be rooting for him, but at the end of the day, I kind of am. But then with the ending with him and Paul Dano, I won't really spoil it for the people that haven't seen it, but you're kind of just you have a weird feeling, but you're kind of like, did that just happen? But you're kind of rooting for him, but you're kind of not. It's a really weird dichotomy watching that movie. Another movie that has a great lead in Philip Seymour Hoffman. Joaquin Phoenix is his first PTA movie, The Master 2012. This was one of the movies that I got to later. I believe I watched it in 2024. And it has a slew of people in it. I think one of the best, probably the best person that can play Philip Seymour Hoffman's kid is Jesse Plemons. And I think he does in this movie. And I think that's just perfect casting. I think he should always play him. We'll get to later. PTA actually had Philip Seymour Hoffman's kid in Licorice Pizza. For those that don't know, he was one of the main leads. So he does kind of honor him in that way. And Cooper Hoffman, we're seeing it now with the longest or long walk. He's a great actor. I can't wait to see that movie. Haven't seen that yet. But your thoughts on The Master?
I love it. I'm a little biased because Joaquin Phoenix is my favorite actor, and you'll hear about me say that when we get to Inherent Vice. But this one is really fascinating. I think it's one of the best psychological thrillers out there because the first time I saw it, I'm kind of like, whoa, what did I just see? Like, I don't understand a lot of it. And I think I've seen this one the second most, and it's really fascinating. Like there's the whole part of it, World War II veteran, he's kind of lost and he gets scooped up into this, let's call it a cult that Philip Seymour Hoffman is running, and he kind of finds meaning with that. They build a nice bond together, and then it kind of falls apart, but then they kind of gravitate back to each other. It's really interesting to watch, and I think I think it's his most like beautiful looking film, like, from just like visuals and cinematography. Like there's some really good things that he does with lighting. I'm thinking about the scene between Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin Phoenix where they're doing like, I don't remember exactly like what the term for it is, but it's like when he's like recording, like he's asking him the questions, is like, what's your name? What's this? And then they like share smoke together. And I think that's one of my favorite shots, which we haven't really talked about, like shot wise. Like that's probably one of my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson shots right there. And I think the blues, like I remember the blues of the ocean when he's on the ship were so nice. And I think Joaquin Phoenix on his own is just very like magnetic, and like every shot that he's in, it's a great shot. And yeah, this is one of my, I don't know, I forget where I ranked it. I know we'll get to our rankings soon, but this movie is really, really great. And it's free on Prime. So I actually might get to it tonight. I'm either watching that or Phantom Thread tonight.
Yeah, Phantom Thread, I can't wait to talk about that one because there's just the rewatchable factor. It makes you want to rewatch just to kind of get more of it because his stories really aren't straightforward most of the time. Like you can kind of get the gist of what it is, but The Master I've only seen once. I definitely want to see it again just to get those subliminal like hints that he has, or just kind of just seeing something that you miss when you only watch it for that first time. Joaquin Phoenix, as you mentioned, this is his first time with PTA. Philip Seymour Hoffman, this was his fifth time with him. And I mean, just the run that Philip Seymour Hoffman went on with him. You had Laura Dern in this, Amy Adams. I mean, this is the one that I think I really need to rewatch again. The one up next, Inherent Vice. The first time I watched it, I think was early morning. I had gotten up and I just gotten up and I was like, this is the one. I think this was the one I was missing. I knew I was probably going to get to Heart 8 later, but this was the one that I was missing. And it really, it really took me like Joaquin Phoenix back-to-back movies with him. Josh Brolin, one of the funniest characters, him being a straightforward guy, Bigfoot Bjornson, just the story, knowing that it like right when it ended, I wanted to know like what the hell was going on. And I didn't even know it was based off a book. I forget the guy that wrote it was Thomas something, Thomas Fiend, something like that. But or Thomas Pynchon because he also wrote One Battle After Another, which I think PTA was basing that off of. But
Mhm.
Inherent Vice, just the story really it kind of flutters along like it's not really coherent, but that's kind of the point. And it's you're just with Joaquin Phoenix, and he's smoking weed the whole movie. He's a PI. It's in the 70s. What's not to love about this movie?
It's hilarious, and it has an awesome soundtrack too. You're right in the sense where it's, you watch it and you're kind of confused what was going on. There's so many different moving pieces. It seems a little incoherent, but I think that's kind of what makes it so rewatchable for me. And this is the Paul Thomas Anderson movie I've seen the most. Like you, each time you see it, and you can watch a YouTube analysis video and be like, oh yeah, that kind of clicks, that kind of clicks. But whenever you actually rewatch the movie and it clicks for you there while you're watching it, it makes it so great. I mean, that goes for film in general, but I think with Inherent Vice specifically, that kind of thing where you're noticing things and you're putting the pieces together, it's the most like rewarding and fascinating, I think, out of any film. And like I said, it's just hilarious. Like I love Joaquin Phoenix. I said that already, but there's so many scenes where I just start laughing. I don't know if I should be or not. Like I wish I could see it in a theater to see if other people are laughing at the stuff I watch. Like because that's kind of interesting. Like I remember when I saw The Brutalist in theater, like a bunch of people were laughing at stuff. I'm like, wait, that was funny. Like I don't know. So I don't know if I like Inherent Vice like irrationally compared to how other people would, but I really love this, and I'm excited to see what you think whenever we get to our rankings.
I
Um,
mean, the scenes that are not to cut you off, but the scenes that really jumped out to me. I mean, the Martin Short part when he's like the that part was crazy. The Hong Chow, the random like the like scene where she was offering up a bunch of nefarious stuff. Like Reese Witherspoon, Owen Wilson are in this. Like it's just the ability that PTA has just to draw in these random performances from these character actors is really unbelievable. and a flip from Inherent Vice with a bunch of people to a really singular performance. We've seen this a couple times in PTA's career where he has a whole crescendo of different actors, Boogie Nights, Magnolia. Punch Drunk Love is kind of a Adam Sandler, kind of just a love story. There Will Be Blood is kind of a duo performance. The Masters, multiple people. Inherent Vice, multiple people. Phantom Thread is just Daniel Day-Lewis and Vicky Krieps. I haven't seen her in anything other than Old before seeing this movie, and it's a movie that I need to rewatch again. Much like a lot of PTA movies, there's just a lot of subliminal stuff that I'm sure I missed. I've only seen it once, so I definitely want to see it again.
Yeah, I watched it on a plane. It was like a 7 hour plane ride, and I watched three films on that plane, and Phantom Thread was one of them. So little jagged in my memory, like a little hazy when I'm going on a flight like that, watching all these movies. I do remember it was so meticulously made, like attention to detail. It's like his mostly, how do I say it? It's like his most tightly made movie. Like everything is not to, I was no pun intended, but it's everything's down to a thread on like on how it's made. And I think this film he has like a score made for it, and it's a beautiful score. I forget the name of the person who did it, but I remember adding a few of those songs for like study music because it's just whether it's like a piano piece or like like string instruments going. I remember loving the vibe of the film, just like old time. I believe it was set in London. I might be wrong, but I remember really loving it. And that's like probably like on my highest, it's probably the highest film on my rewatch list. Like I really want to watch it. I know it's free on Netflix. I have to get to it. And again, it's another Daniel Day-Lewis performance. It's his last one for 8 years because now he's doing a film with his son. But I believe this is the last time we see Daniel Day Lewis. That's such a hard name to say quick, but it's the last time we see him. And I remember being so blown away with it. And I'm really looking forward to rewatching it. And I did want to say one thing about The Master. Another great rage scene whenever they're arrested and Joaquin Phoenix goes off in the jail cell. It's actually interesting. He breaks the toilet, and this was like an old, like historic prison that they were in, and he just did it out of like improv. Like he improv that and broke it, and it was kind of a big deal, at least just for the production there. They had to pay for it and all. But I did want to mention that another great rage scene.
Yeah, PTA, his ability to balance comedy with drama and mystery, it's one of his greatest strengths. Last but not least in the chronology, Licorice Pizza 2021, Alana Haim and Cooper Hoffman, their first time on screen. It's crazy that this is their first time. Sean Penn, Bradley Cooper, Benny Safdie with great performances as well. This is the type of movie that you can kind of just throw on and have a good time with. Coming out of COVID, this definitely would have been nice to see in theaters if I had really known about it and been a fan of PTA like I am now. But I think out of all of his movies, this was the one that it's much like Punch Drunk Love. It's the romance and comedy is kind of the center. There's not a lot of subliminal messages, even though there probably is, like there is in all PTA movies. But I think this one, Cooper Hoffman, it introduces him. We see him now getting a lot of acclaim for The Long Walk. But Licorice Pizza, I think it's definitely along with, as you mentioned, with Phantom Thread, definitely a movie that I need to rewatch soon.
Yeah, it's free on Prime if you want to go for it. Um, I loved it. I rewatched it a couple of days ago, and I was really glad because, like I said earlier, it was the first PTA film I saw, and I kind of wanted to circle back on it because it's also his latest. So it's kind of, interesting to see where, what he's doing these days and like the little themes that he's going after. But it's a really fun watch. Like it's really just like Cooper Hoffman's character is a 15-year-old. He's just a hustler. He's trying to cash a check. You see him go through all kinds of like these like he's going after these like capitalistic, business opportunities that he likes. Like he starts out with the water beds and he's successful with it. And then there's a second there whenever he's going after oh man, I'm forgetting it. But he eventually gets to pinball machines in the end, and it's really interesting because he's also a child actor too. So he's just like he's a go-getter. He's going after all of it, and then to compare it with the Alana Haim character, she's like 25, which the age it's like I don't really have a big deal with it. That's probably how things were back in the day. I'm not going to criticize the film for that. But anyways, she is like a 25-year-old who's kind of lost, doesn't really have much going for her. She's the youngest of her family, and she's 25, and everyone is still living at home. So it's a kind of another thing that Paul Thomas Anderson is good at, where he has these, good details of things. But anyway, they mesh together so well because he is this young and ambitious person, and she is kind of looking for meaning. And you see her go after things like with the Benny Safdie character, she becomes a volunteer for his, political pursuit that he's after. And another thing I want to say for this film that you kind of got to is like these quick little performances from everyone. Like Sean Penn comes in, and he's like this big movie star because Alana was getting into movies, thankful to Cooper. But he comes in, and you can tell that he's kind of, preying on Alana a little bit, but he's also so full of himself because that motorcycle scene was kind of hilarious, but that's all we really see of Sean Penn. And then Bradley Cooper comes in. He has this house. He has that scene when Bradley Cooper first comes in. You'll have to rewatch it. When Bradley Cooper first comes in, and he's talking to Cooper Hoffman's character, it is so like funny, but I don't feel like it's supposed to be. And he's another just crazy mess of a character. Like he's one of his lines is like, I chase tail too much. It's probably going to kill me. It's all I want to do. And then later in the film, he kind of just he pops up. That's another funny thing about it, and was probably an accurate way of how the valley used to be. People just popped up out of nowhere. Like he shows up on the street and he gets into the van, and they have to take him to his car because they have to get gas, which is another thing that PTA was so good at, was like the oil crisis back then. He has that in the film. He's so good at getting real life drawn down to a T. And then later on, Bradley Cooper's character comes in, and he's not even involved. He's just in the background, and he's talking to these two women who were tennis players, and he's like, "So who is the better backhand? Who is the better serve? I think you have the better serve." And it's so funny. And then we're like three-fourths of the way through, and then here's Benny Safdie. It's like what's going on? It's like all these people just come through, and in the end, our two characters come together, and it's really great. And I don't remember if I said this already, but it's a really nostalgic film too. Like it reminds me of what it was like before we got our driver's license and we just walked everywhere, or you ran. There's a bunch of running in this scene in this film. There's probably 10 different scenes where people are running, and it's really great. It's another awesome soundtrack, and another thing on how you mentioned earlier how he gets the set design down, the costume design down. It's a really great film, and you should rewatch it. I'll be looking for your letterbox review on it.
Yeah, I think with all of PTA movies, the way that one of the best things that he does, I think, is introducing characters that in any other movie with any other director really wouldn't be meaningful at all. But he has the ability to have these characters. You'll remember them forever. I'll always remember Scotty J. I'll always remember, even if it's not Philip Seymour Hoffman, because he always steals the show. But even like Don Cheadle's character in Boogie Nights, the donut shop scene, like there's just a bunch of different scenes that you can take from all of his movies, and we can get into that now before the rankings. What are like your favorite scenes that you'll always remember if someone were to just bring up PTA, like the scenes that you'll remember the most?
Josh Brolin scene in Inherent Vice. It's toward the end. I think it's like the very end almost actually. You can tell this character's kind of had like a psychotic break. And it's also hilarious because he enters, it's just Joaquin. He's like rolling a joint. And then the door is bust down. And here comes Josh Brolin. And they do whatever dialogue they do. But then he grabs like the weed, like the actual plants of weed that Joaquin Phoenix has, and he just eats it. He just eats this whole like tray. And you're like, what is happening? This character who was such like a person of power and consistency, you just see him have a psychotic break. And that's one of my more favorite scenes in the Paul Thomas Anderson filmography. Another one I like from Phantom Thread. It's a bit more simpler. It's in the beginning. You see Daniel Day-Lewis's character. He's like getting ready. Like you see him comb his hair. You see him shine his shoes. That's just more of like a satisfying scene that I love. One more. The very start of Boogie Nights is this 3 minute take where you see Boogie Nights on like a building across the street, and then you can see the camera kind of panning around, and you're like, how did they pull this off? Like it goes from a crane to on the move again, and it's on a track, and you're just flying through. It's the start of the movie too, where "Best of My Love" that song is playing, another song that I've added, but it's playing. The vibes are great. The camera's just flying through. All these people, all the characters are flying through. You got Roller Girl going by. It's awesome. That's those three scenes right there are ones I think about. And then of course, I drink your milkshake. Like it's just that line really that I think about a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there's scenes from every movie that we can pick apart. Magnolia, I love the way the camera moves between the characters, like bouncing from storyline to storyline. In
Mm-hmm.
Magnolia, I think the every scene with the kid, that actor was unbelievable for like the performance that he had. I don't think he is very much into acting anymore. Like that's really his most notable performance. Punch Drunk Love. There's just a lot of great running. There's great running in that from Sandler. There Will Be Blood. You mentioned it earlier in the podcast. The oil raining down. That's very memorable. The end in the bowling alley is something that I'll never forget. The Master. Another thing that I wanted to mention with PTA movies, he always sneaks in like just a little bit of like sex in like every movie in some kind of way. A scene that I was thinking about when you were talking about Inherent Vice, Brolin with the banana in the car, just like a subliminal, like it's right there, it's in the background. You won't see it if you don't pay attention. But like this guy that's supposed to be serious with like a military haircut, and he's very serious the whole movie, just being like absolutely silly. His balance between serious drama and like There Will Be Blood and just absolute humor, we see it in Boogie Nights. He balances like when Mark Wahlberg's like screaming at his mom, from just that to the William H. Macy scene to Scotty J. The just balance between that and the character introductions, like in Boogie Nights when John C. Reilly meets Wahlberg's character, the way that he can introduce characters to each other is among the best. He's got to be up there in my top three. I think him, Tarantino's definitely one of my favorites, just him and his style. I would have to think about it for a while, but he's just an unbelievable director, and one battle after another. I cannot wait to see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's gonna be so great. Just it, everyone is like giving it so much praise too. Like to me, it feels like I'm watching There Will Be Blood again. It's just another film that has all this praise. So my expectations are high. I'm a little worried, but I'm not going to let that affect. I can't wait to get into it. It's going to be so great,
And as we,
especially with the Leo piece.
oh
Sorry, but
yeah,
especially with the Leo piece too. Like Leo had a shot of being in Boogie Nights allegedly, but we're seeing Leo for the first time in a while. I don't remember really what his last film was. I'll
I think it was
look
Don't
that up
Look
for
Up.
us. Don't look up. So it was what, like 4 years ago?
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
that's another exciting part.
like with Leo, I was just gonna bring it up. You,
Oh,
you hit the
Killers of
nail
the
on the head.
Flower Moon.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. I still have to carve out. That's another 3 hour movie that I got to cut out time for. I've heard it's a masterpiece, but the the parallels between There Will Be Blood and One Battle After Another. We saw Daniel Day-Lewis. This was his first film with PTA, and this is Leo's first film with One Battle After Another. And that's we saw how that turned out with There Will Be Blood. I think with the award season, this is definitely going to be in contention. We'll obviously have more to say when we both see the movie, but I think the awards race will be fun. PTA still hasn't won yet. This is his, I think this could be his best chance to win. We'll see though what happens, but I think it's finally time, unless you wanted to hit anything else for our rankings. Um, I think of his 9 movies I mentioned earlier, I have not seen Hard Eight, but I don't know if that'll influence my rankings of what I have. But I guess we can get into it right away. Coming in at number 8 for me personally, it could be a shock to some, but I have Phantom Thread. Phantom
Hey,
Thread at number
that's
8.
valid.
I think I have it, or number nine, I guess, is Hard Eight for me, but um, eight and nine, Phantom Thread, and then Hard Eight. Eight, I don't know, Phantom Thread. I know there's a lot of stuff. The relationship I think is really good. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. There's no bad PTA movies, but I think that's the one that I just haven't returned to, and I haven't really felt the urge to out of all of his movies. It's the one that I know is really good, but I think for me, it's just the one I probably had the least amount of fun with up to that point.
Mhm. Yeah, that's valid. How do we want to, do you want to go through all your rankings, or am I going to give my number nine? Like, we'll go number for
We could go
number.
back and forth if you want, yeah.
All right, yeah, let's do it. So my number nine is actually Punch Drunk Love. It's they're all like you said, there's no bad PTA movie. I just think I don't it's kind of what you said with Phantom Thread. I didn't have like the most fun with it, and I kind of just like all the other movies a lot more. And then I'll give my number eight since that's where we're at. It is Hard Eight. Really fun movie. I kind of did my thing on it earlier, but it's really fun. It's really fascinating, and you're seeing a pretty great cast going at it. It's a nice movie to watch too. It's not too long either, and I had a lot of fun with it watching it last night.
Yeah. For me, at number seven, Punch Drunk Love. I think that was just ahead of Phantom Thread just because of as we mentioned earlier, the comedic elements of the anger blowouts from Sandler just really was something that I enjoyed about that one. We can get to it, or what was your number seven?
My number seven, I have Magnolia at number seven. Um, it's definitely one I need to rewatch. I kind of like when I watched it, like I said, it was probably 3 or 4-ish years ago. And, for just getting into movies at that time, it was a lot for me to process. I did like how there's all the different storylines going on, but I think if I rewatch it, I can appreciate it a bit more. So right now, that's the reason why I have it at seven. But like we said, there's no bad PTA film. All these are fantastic movies to watch.
I think definitely if you were to rewatch that, I would put stock in that, definitely moving up in your rankings for sure.
Mm.
For me, coming in at number six, Licorice Pizza. I've only seen it once. I enjoyed when I watched it. I think the performances in the of the main characters are some of his best. But for me, I think it's a middle of the road PTA movie. It's fun, as we mentioned, and we talked about it a lot earlier. But I think it definitely has a chance to move up. But slipping into that top five is very hard for PTA. I think the top five it's very solid. I think one battle after another. Of the things I've heard, I think it has a chance to sneak into that top five. But I think Licorice Pizza is right there.
Mm. What are we on? Six? My number six, I got Phantom Thread. Um, I guess there's not much to say about it. I think I agree a lot with what you said. I do like how tightly made it is. Like I can appreciate the filmmaking aspect of it, where everything is down to a T. And then I really liked the Vicky Krieps performance too. I like same with you. I've only seen her in one other movie. What was it? Old? Yeah, I've only seen it in that. Um, and I do remember really liking the visuals in that film. And it's like as I said earlier, it's the highest on my rewatch list. So if I rewatch it, same with Magnolia, it could definitely go up.
Now I can give you my five, you can give me your five for our top five of PTA movie rankings. For me, I'll go five, four, three, two, one. The Master at five, Inherent Vice four, Magnolia three, There Will Be Blood two, and Boogie Nights number one.
Love it. That's great. Um, should I do my five now, or do you want to
Oh yeah,
talk about it a little?
we got
All
to
right.
compare. We got to compare top fives.
Okay. This is our breakout clip. My number five, we have The Master. Four, I got Licorice Pizza. Three, Boogie Nights. Two, Inherent Vice. One, There Will Be Blood.
Wow. Inherent Vice over Boogie Nights?
I know it's bad. And it can definitely flip. It's been a while since I've seen Boogie Nights. I've seen it a lot though. But I just there's just something about Inherent Vice that I love. Like this past winter, I watched it, I think 3 times in a month span. Like I just kept coming back to it. I love I think I just like we kind of discussed it earlier. I just love putting all the pieces together. Like I have another friend who's into movies and he watched it for the first time and he was like, "Yeah, it was a little incoherent, but it was still good." I'm like, "Well, there you go. Now let's do another watch and then it's going to get better and better." I think because I've seen it so much, I love it. And maybe it's the bias of Joaquin Phoenix being my favorite actor and I love the soundtrack. Um, but Boogie Nights, it's like they're right next to each other too. Like we're splitting hairs here.
I think a lot of with PTA, a lot of, I mean, these rankings, I think for me personally, it's like my favorite. It's not the best. I think if we were to rank it in terms of like the best, I think There Will Be Blood has to be number one. But for me, I think Boogie Nights is my favorite, I would just say, because it has everything I love. It has a lot of characters that I love. It has the comedy. It has obviously it has the sex in it, with that being pretty much the main storyline with Dirk Diggler. The character names in this, I mean, we didn't get to that, but Dirk Diggler, Reed Rothschild, Brock Landers, Chess Rockwell, it has some of the best in it. And that
Amber Waves,
blood,
Roller Girl,
oh, I mean, her feet
Little
have to
Bill.
smell absolutely horrendous. Do you think she wears those like all the time, or do you think she ever takes them off?
Well, in the movie, she never took them off. So maybe she just got used to it in real life and still does it.
Her feet have to be something horrendous, but I think Boogie
Don't.
Nights and There Will Be Blood. For me, it's pretty much like 1A and 1B with those. Magnolia, definitely on a rewatch, I think will give you a little bit more of insight to like I loved what he was trying there. I think there might be a little fluff just because it pretty much was like a blank check after Boogie Nights, like do whatever you want. And I think he just had so many ideas going on in his head and he wanted to just get it all on paper. He had the game show element because I believe his father was in a game show,
Mhm.
was kind of like running it, and that's what kind of got him into the business aspect of it. There's just so many ideas in that one. I think Inherent Vice is one of the best movies to watch stoned, and I think that definitely is an element to it because you're kind of smoking along with Joaquin Phoenix. But that one I definitely need to rewatch because it kind of feels like an adult Scooby-Doo in some kind of way. Like it's kind of a mystery, like what's the golden thing? What's going on here? Like it's kind of dark and foggy in some aspects, but it's just super fun. I think PTA films California the best in my opinion, with especially the Valley where he grew up and he knows the best. But my top five and even the whole rankings, you can kind of mix and match, and you really can't say anything about it because it's not like a Tarantino or a filmmaker where there is kind of the top films and there's kind of ones that people don't really mention as much. But I think for PTA, Boogie Nights and There Will Be Blood, all of them are great. We have to mention it that all of his films are good. There's no bad PTA movies, and you can really rank them. And it's really just what is your taste, in my opinion. Like that's kind of how you rank them.
Absolutely. And I'll say, before I went into my little Inherent Vice phase this past winter, Boogie Nights was my number one because I still hadn't seen There Will Be Blood. Like I remember that being like set in stone. Like I'm looking at my Letterboxd reviews right now. Like it was definitely the top. And then Inherent Vice kind of just took over because I got really fascinated with that story. And then There Will Be Blood, watching it 2 days ago. I can't stop thinking about it. Like my mind has been on it ever since I watched it. And it's really been a great week too. Like preparing for this, preparing for one battle after another, just going through all the old films again. Like it just kind of reminds me how much I like Paul Thomas Anderson and his films. And I it's really nice because like you said it earlier, this release of one battle after another is a big event. Like it feels cool to be a part of this and like going through everything, re-familiarizing myself with his work. I cannot wait to watch this film twice because I'm gonna do it twice. Yeah, I feel like we have to.
I think so far this year, I mean, we can even talk about it before we wrap up. This year in movies, I think it's been a pretty decent year, but thinking about it, last year we had the awards race. Anora I watched like late before. I think it was just before the award season, but it was kind of a weird movie year. Before that, we had um or was it Oppenheimer? Was that the Oppenheimer?
Yeah, that was Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer just won everything. That was a fun event. The obviously the Barbenheimer was a huge event around the world, and I think this is the one for the film heads because not everybody's going to go see it. I don't know if it'll make its money back because I believe the budget is an absurd amount. I know people were concerned about it making its money back, but it's PTA. Who really cares? I don't think his films are known for just being absolute box office hits. But I think for the real PTA heads, for the real film heads, this is the event of the year. So far, the best movies that I've seen this year. I'm very much into horror movies, as those close to me know. And for so far in 2025, the movies of the year, in my opinion, Weapons. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but Weapons. It's a great movie, much like Magnolia in a way. Sinners.
Yeah, I was fascinated when you said that. Like you said, it's kind of like Magnolia. Like that makes me want to watch Weapons even more now.
I highly recommend Weapons, highly recommend Sinners, highly recommend Eddington for Walking Phoenix, your guy. That movie is absolutely crazy, probably the best parody of 2020. Final Destination Bloodlines, the best Final Destination movie in the series, in my opinion. Together is a crazy movie. Dave Franco and his wife, Alison Brie. Dangerous Animals. Comes in at number six for me. These are all just my 2025 ranked, but Dangerous Animals, a great Australian horror movie. It's kind of like Saw if it was on a boat with sharks. That's kind of my little synopsis. Companion, The Monkey, Osgood Perkins. He's dropped a lot of bangers recently. Um, Long Legs, Nicolas Cage, a crazy performance. The Monkey, I finally got around to watching. That's a crazy movie. He has a movie coming out this year called The Keeper, which looks really intriguing. I didn't really love Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. I thought it was just a really weird way to end the Mission Impossible. Allegedly, I think they'll probably make another one. Did you hear PTA wanted to make one, but he never got the chance to? And they're like, just bring it back then. Like a PTA Mission Impossible movie would be insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I would go, I would see that. That would be awesome.
But those are just some of the movies in 2025. I hope this does wonders. I hope it's in the award season. I hope PTA will win for it, but I really can't say that yet because I haven't seen it. But One Battle After Another comes out today. It's out. It's in theaters. It's gonna be something else. But I don't want to get my expectations too high. But I've allegedly heard that Leo, this is like an all-timer. So we'll have to see what happens when we do see it. Any final thoughts before we wrap up on PTA?
Um, I guess I'd say one thing I'm looking out for, like what kind of one theme with his films. It's sort of like a lot of his films are like a person finds another person. Usually it's man on man, except for like Phantom Thread and Licorice Pizza. But it's like the relationship between men and like how like they help out with each other. Like Philip Baker Hall and John C. Riley and Heart Eight, that's a big one. Whenever you watch it, you'll see that. Boogie Nights, it's Dirk Diggler and um, I'm blanking. Burt
Reed
Reynolds'
Rothschild.
character,
Reed
but like
Rothschild.
for like Jack Horner. I mean, like
Oh yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
like what I'm getting at here is like a person of power in a way helps out someone else in a way that just really works out. And then even with There'll Be Blood, it's there's an interesting relationship between Daniel Plainview and Eli Sunday. You know, the master, it's Philip Seymour Hoffman, Joaquin Phoenix. Um, and yeah, it's like that's kind of one thing I'll be looking for based off like kind of what we know. It probably won't be that way, but I think that's just one thing I'll be looking out for a little bit to see if he kind of goes back to that theme of one person of power helping out another.
Yeah, like we mentioned earlier, PTA hadn't worked with Daniel Day-Lewis in 2007, and then they made There Will Be Blood, and now he's working with Leo in 2025, and we'll have to see if that's an all-time performance like we saw with DDL in There Will Be Blood. But this has been the Rombough Show, PTA. We have the rankings, but that was like the least important. I just wanted to have a discussion about PTA. He's one of my favorite. I know he's one of your favorite directors. And we'll have our thoughts after one battle after another after we see it. But this has been the PTA discussion podcast here on the Rombough Show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.